Hello दोस्तों, my name is Deepak and I'm a tax code advisor. Today I have a wonderful news for you. If you have any kind of LLC set up in the US, S Corp, C Corp, or maybe you have a shell company that you set up a few years ago and it's just sitting there and you're thinking about doing something with it, most of you guys were required to file the BOI report before the end of the year. And if you didn't file that report, the penalties were really, really bad. The penalties were either the jail time or you pay $500 a day. And that penalty was set up when the act was enacted, but they set it to adjust as per inflation. So that penalty might be even $550 or something like that by now. So anyhow, the point I'm trying to make is if you did not file that report, then penalties were really, really bad. Criminal as well as civil penalties. And a lot of people did file. Many people even spend thousands of dollars filing that report. In matter of fact, if you go on YouTube and other places, you will find tons of videos by various attorneys talking about CTA. And it was a good source of business for them as well, because a lot of people didn't know how to deal with that. And they all went to the attorneys. And to make the matter even more complicated, IRS did not came up with clarification as to whether tax professionals should be helping their clients with the filing of CTA or not. Eventually they did. Eventually they said that tax professionals can help. But originally that was a bit confusing. So a lot of tax professionals were staying away from it. Why? Because when you file the BOI report, they even require the information about the filer. The full name of the filer, the date of birth, the address, their identity like driving license or passport. So all that kind of information. And all that information was also required by anybody who was the beneficial owner of that company. And the way government defined the beneficial owner was that if you directly or indirectly owns 25% or more of an entity, or you exercise substantial control over the entity. That means you could technically even be an owner, but you could have a control. It could be a CEO of a company, CTO of a company, maybe a CFO of a company. So all of those people, even if they don't really own substantial equity, but they have substantial control, all of those people, information needed to be submitted to FinCEN, which is the sister branch of IRS. So it required a lot of information. Now, this act was not new. It was actually enacted back in 2021, and it came about because government wanted to know who are the owners of people buying properties in the US. We saw a lot of people were buying land, and there was shell company after the shell company after the shell company. Or we saw people setting up businesses and they were doing money laundering and all kind of other fraud and corruption going on in the country. And the Congress says, well, how do we know who actually own all this stuff? And they said, you know what, why don't we make a law that anytime a business is set up, or if somebody's buying a property under an entity name, that means we don't know who the person is. They're setting up this entity. We should figure out a way to link an entity with a person. We want to know who actually owns this company. And even if the owner is not an equity holder, we should know who actually benefit from that company. It could be another country, it could be drug cartel, it could be terrorist, it could be anyone out there who might be taking advantage of the US system for their own benefit. And that was the idea. The idea was to catch the bad fish. But today, the Texas court made a ruling that this law oversteps the Congress boundaries. According to court, this is just too much. They're asking too much information. And for the time being, the Texas court has put injunction on execution of this requirement nationwide. For the time being, sounds like all of us who have different business entities are off the hook. Unfortunately, so are the criminals. So people who are doing all the bad things and they have set up these shell companies, they are off the hook, at least for the time being as well. Now, is it possible that within a week or 2 weeks, we might see the judge go back on his words and take the injunction back? Possible. So we have to wait and watch for that. Is it possible that Congress amends the rules next year and come up with a different way of executing it? Possible. That can also happen. So what are some of the choices? Well, for the time being, I checked the website for BOI. It's still up right now. So if you are one of those who just want to get it over with it and you have nothing to hide and you don't mind spending some time, you can go on BOI website and you can submit the information there. If you have already submitted the information there, then there's no harm either. You're fine. There's no, it's not like you have to go there and cancel your application or withdraw your application or anything like that. So you are okay. One of the main reason why I'm saying that if you are, if there's nothing for you to hide, then it's still okay for you to submit is because if injunction were taken back by the court and now we are required, then a lot of people are going to start jumping on that BOI website at the last minute and start submitting their application. And more than likely, that's going to turn into more problems. My feeling is even if that happens, IRS will probably extend the deadline. Instead of being December 31st, they might give another month or two. Now, not every company was required to file BOI either, by the way. It was mostly targeted at smaller businesses, people who have less than 20 employees, people who had less than $5 million in sales. They had physical office or somebody big who have a lot of employees, they have a lot of revenue, they have an office here. More than likely, these people were reporting all of their transactions in one way or the other to the government anyway. So those people were excluded. But most of us small business owners or real estate owners, we were required to submit our information. Now, this information was not public. It's not like you go onto a website and you can go pull up, okay, who owns this company or who owns this property or anything like that. Everything was private in nature. So all the database was confidential. However, the law enforcement agencies, they did have access to it. SEC did have access to it. And even the financial institutions had access to it. The biggest problem that I saw, personally speaking, the penalties for non-compliance were huge. For example, civil penalties were for up to $500 per day until the violation is resolved. Now remember, I didn't say 500, I said 500 per day. So imagine if you're delayed by 60 days or 90 days, that's a huge penalty that you can run into. Criminal penalties, there was fines of up to $10,000 or jail time of up to 2 years. So those were pretty bad. Now, the reporting requirement began January 1st, 2024, and the entities that were already in existence as of January 1st, 2024 had 1 year to file this report. But like I said, because of this injunction, that is no longer required. So those are the updates. I think that's a good news for a lot of people who just didn't realize that they had to file this. And I think this information is so new that a lot of people perhaps don't even know about it. Now, we talked about it at the Wealth Summit. We talked about it in various seminars and webinars. So I think most of our clients are very familiar with it. But still, when clients coming in for consultation, I ask them, did you file BOI report? They have no clue. And that brings up another very important point. I'm seeing more and more people trying to set up entities online. Why? Because it's cheap, okay? But you got to understand, whenever you're doing something online, this is good if that is all what you want to do. But if you don't understand what clauses you should have in your entity, what documents you should have. Like, for example, let's say if you go to some online site and you set up a company, are they really setting up your board of directors? Are they setting up your board of advisors? Are they setting up your reimbursement plan? Are they setting up a structure where you can incorporate your kids into your business? Are they setting up a structure where perhaps you can have your board meeting in different places and being able to write off your travel for that particular trip? No, of course not. And then more importantly, they might be missing out things like BOI requirement. They might be missing out on setting up your accounts with different states as well, for your unemployment payment, Medicare payment, and so forth. So there are many other steps involved when you're setting up an LLC or any other business entity. But oftentimes these online people, they only stop at registering with the state. And that's all what they're doing. And that's it. And then another important point is a lot of people also undermine the importance of having a good attorney when they're setting up an entity. And I'm seeing that again and again as well. And one of the benefits is when you go to a tax professional and you ask them, hey, can you help me? First of all, most tax professionals charge by the hour anyway. So you don't have to come up with a $2,000 bill for an attorney. You go to them, explain to them what exactly are you trying to achieve. They can look at it from a tax point of view, and they can advise you whether you should get an attorney involved in that matter or not, and what might be the most cost-effective way of getting your entity built in the right way. So I'll strongly encourage you to talk to whoever you do business with, because I think they can be of enormous help to you. So once again, my name is Deepak. I'm a tax code advisor. I help clients throughout the country, whether you are in the US or elsewhere. Maybe you moved into the country or you moved out of the country, but you're still doing business in the US and you need help with your taxes. You are welcome to reach out to me via taxcodeadvisors.com. I make videos about tax updates. I talk about finance updates, real estate updates, and of course, immigration update, because those are the topics my clients are more interested in. If you have a tax question you want to ask, then just please leave it in the comment and I'll try to answer that in the next video. Thank you so much for spending your last 10 minutes with me. Please share this video with your friends, family members. Hopefully you might save them some money as well as save them some time. And most importantly, you're going to save them some headache. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.